Welcome to the Seahawkers podcast with your hosts, Adam Emmert.
This isn't a Hallmark movie. Sally Fields doesn't star in this film. This is Left Tackle.
And Brandan Schultz.
I believe, based on everything that I've seen from Bleacher Report in the past, that this is Jason Cole's fault.
Go Hawks!
Welcome to episode 150 of the Seahawkers podcast. I'm Brandan Schultz of the Military Seahawkers, and joining me, my co-host and good buddy, Adam Emmert.
150, man. Wow. I guess I hadn't realized that, but it is, isn't it? Unbelievable. I can't believe it took us 149 episodes for us to really disagree on something.
That's true. Yeah, that last episode with the Eddie Lacy disagreement.
Yeah. Which,
some people, I don't think some people liked. It was like hearing mom and dad argue as a little kid, and I don't think some listeners like that.
Yeah, I don't think people realize that it's just Eddie Lacy. We're still cool with one another. It's not even a big deal. I only go back and re-listen to maybe 1 in 10 shows, something like that. Just pick up on little things that you do that try to improve yourself as a podcaster. And basically, when I went back and re-listened to that show, because a lot of people were like, "Oh man, that Doc Scott, the man, the myth, the DJ over in England, he was concerned that it was going to come to blows," and I was like, "Oh, it wasn't anything like that." And it turns out that going back and listening to it, I didn't think it sounded all that burly, but maybe that's just me.
Well, when I went and listened back to it, it reminded me of something. It reminded me that of something that the Seahawks and Pete Carroll in particular likes to say. Do you win the offseason in the first quarter, Adam? Do you win the offseason in the second quarter? I'm not even sure we're in the second quarter. And you're getting fired up. You're getting fired up about the offseason when it's 10 minutes into the offseason.
That analogy does not work here.
It totally works.
Because basically, sure, if you want to break it out into 4 quarters of an off season, then sure, technically you're right. If we're looking at it within 4 quarters of free agency, then we are very much in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, and that became obvious this past week with some of the latest Seahawks signings. We'll get into that. Despite your declaration that all the free agency money was gone, the Seahawks did pick up a number of players. We'll talk about them. Okay. Michael Bennett named 3 guys that he thinks are poised for breakout seasons, and I want to talk about those guys that Michael Bennett named. And, Adam, I found out this week that the NFL commissioner, Roger Goodell, he and I have something in common. It turns out we hate similar things, and it's not our sports hate for Tom Brady. This is something we both legitimately hate about game day in the NFL.
Does it have anything to do with the ideal gas law?
I don't know anything about it, but I'm sure Goodell hates the ideal gas law too.
Yes. So just at the top of the show here, having some throat issues today, struggling through. So for any coughing, clearing the throats, things that just don't sound good on a podcast, I'm powering through today, and I'm sorry ahead of time. Just like that.
Just like that.
I'm drinking some tea. We're making this happen because there's no rest for the weary, Brandon. The show must go on, much like the Seahawks offseason has gone on. And like you said, brought in a couple dudes, even though the money was already gone, in my estimation. But with that said, I've come to realize, so every time I look at the cap, it's a totally different number than the same dude told me the last time. And I can't figure it out. I've tried real hard to be an armchair GM and figure out how the cap works and the cap money and all that. And the long and short of it is I have no catfish clue. I really don't. I can't understand it. After doing the math before last show, there really wasn't much left. And then I go and I see estimates from anywhere that we have this week after signing 2 more dudes, $4 to $7 million left in cap space, which makes no sense to me considering the week before these same guys were saying there was nothing left. So whatever.
Well, it's not really easy to comprehend. And I tend to go to spottrack.com.
That was one of them. Yeah.
Yeah. And so the NFL salary cap this year is $167,000. The Seahawks had $2 million.
We're going to have to cut everybody if it's only 167,000.
167 million.
Oh, right. Okay, that sounds way better.
167,000. That would not even cover, I think, the dead cap money for Jamarcus Webb. So,
right.
2017 NFL salary cap is $167 million. The Seahawks rolled over $2 million, and which gives them $169 million to spend. All contracts right now on the books they're at 164 million, almost 165. So they're right up against it. But the one number that it seems like they go by is the top 51 contracts, because, you have a 53-man roster once the season starts. And so the NFL measures, I think the number that you have to keep it under, you have to watch that top 51 contracts number, which is at 156 million right now. And then, like we've talked about before, you want to set aside money for the draft pool. Right now, Spot Track has that at 5.5 million for the Seahawks. And so when you combine that with the top 51 and some of the dead money and that sort of thing, you're looking at 157 million. That's the total with the top 51. And then when you add in that draft money, I think you're looking at having about 6 million in cap space left right now, and which is about the amount that they consider that you need for injuries during the season,
injury reserve, things like that.
You want to have about 6 million in space just to keep yourself safe. So yes, they're right up against it, but because it is that top 51 number, it means they can go out and sign guys. Right now at the number 51 contract is a cap hit of $540,000.
Right.
So if you go out and you sign a guy for, let's say, $700,000, then really you're only adding about $160,000 to the cap, because that, as you're filling out your 90-man roster, those lower numbers bump down under the top 51 number. So it is kind of confusing. And
I was gonna say, clear as mud.
I know,
clear as mud. Yeah.
The point is,
the only thing I wanted to correct you on within all that, because you did a really good job, is it's SPO Track.
SPO Track.
They're not tracking like spas. This is sports stuff. It's SPO Track.
I like Spot Track.
Well, it's wrong.
It's like Spot. Spot Track.
That's not what it's like at all. It's like SPO Track, because they're tracking sports.
You said, no, see, if you're going to correct me on something, I have to correct you on something. You said maybe this team wasn't done on the offensive line. Well, I guess you're right. They weren't done, because they went out and they get,
like I said,
offensive guard O'Day Abushi. How are you feeling about this? Are you feeling better now? Because last week you were so upset about the Lacey stuff. Now they've clearly they brought in 2 guys on the offensive line. We're good now.
Yeah, I was looking for like 4 to 5 is kind of what I was hoping for, which they could still do apparently, because the cap space magically keeps reappearing every week. So that's cool.
That works for the Patriots.
Yeah, right. So, I was really hoping to 4 to 5 veteran guys that you could look at and see. And I said this on the last show. I'm not adverse to bringing in older dudes and have them compete. Whereas the Seahawks clearly have a completed version to bringing in older guys to compete. Like, and give them a legitimate shot, because O'Day is he's like 25.
Yeah,
something
he's
like
a younger
that.
guy.
Drafted in 2013. I looked him up on Pro Football Focus, and it came up as a blank. So to be honest, I don't know a ton about him. I saw the article you had posted on the Facebook page, which if you guys enjoy getting Seahawks news and things like that, like the Facebook page and follow that, because Brandon does an amazing job of going through and sifting through the BS stories and putting out good ones with good information. And one of them that you had posted was the idea that he's actually decent in pass protection when the quarterback holds onto the ball for a little too long. So that's nice to see.
Yeah, in 287 snaps, when the quarterback held the ball for more than 2 seconds, he only allowed 4 sacks or hits. So that's a pretty good rate as far as 280. Now it sounds like a cherry pick stat, because it's talking about when the quarterback holds it 2 seconds or longer.
Right.
I went back and I looked at his stats on the Washington Post for the number of sacks. They don't have quarterback hits, but they have the number of sacks. He's only given up 4 sacks, and he's had 18 starts in his career, which he's doing better than your guard on the other side, Jermaine Ifedi, who gave up 5.5 sacks last year.
Right. And well, the idea too is that he plays left guard, right? So Glowinski was your second best lineman. I mean, he was a guy that was close to serviceable.
Yeah.
So do you compete with Glowinski at that point, or do they bring him in to play right guard and kick Ifedi out to right tackle? I mean, I don't know. Or does he even make the roster? It's hard to say.
It's hard to say.
I mean, this isn't a move that I'm excited about, in the sense where I'm like, that seems like an option as a regular fan that I look at and say, what a great pickup. because it's somebody I know or recognize or understand how they play. He's a complete unknown to me, and I think to most people. Now, the funny part is that he was drafted in 2013, started a number of games for the Jets, and then the Jets signed James Carpenter to take his place and at guard, and then got rid of him.
So the guy that we let go took his spot, and he went somewhere else.
It's the circle of NFL, the circle of life, Brandon.
And now we may be replacing Carpenter with Ibushi.
Right. So we'll see how it goes. I mean, it's another body. I'm glad they brought him in. But again, I'm sure he's making close to veteran minimum. What is he? He's a 4-year vet, right?
Yeah, just under $1 million. So this is another Bradley Sowell type.
Odd some. Yeah. And that's just it. When I was talking about the Eddie Lacy stuff, and I know we had a critique saying that there's no way that you could bring in 2 or 3 offensive linemen for under $3 million. Well, yes, actually you can. And here's an example of that. You could bring in a guy like this and say like Chance Warmack, who signed for a contract that counted $1.5 million against the cap.
Yeah.
I mean, that's 2 guys right there. So yeah, you could easily do it. And that was my biggest argument on that.
So yeah, 1-year deal, $795,000 for O'Day.
Yeah, right about in line with what I was kind of predicting. So and again, as far as the financial commitment to the guy, with the risk and the potential upside and all that, whatever that is that they see on film, I'm completely on board. I mean, I guess that's kind of my point with the offensive line. I mean, we're at that point where we need to take a lot of risks. We need to churn it over. We need to bring in a bunch of dudes and see who can actually play and who can't, and have them duke it out in competition. Do I think that this guy's the answer? I have no catfish clue. I'm trying to be hopeful.
I think that's all we can be when it comes to the offensive line. And speaking of hopeful, I think we were hopeful when the Seahawks first signed Blair Walsh, that Blair Walsh may not be hopeful that he may not be the Seahawks opening day starter at kicker. And it's more certain of that now after Hauschka goes and leaves to Buffalo. I want to talk about him, but the Seahawks did bring in another kicker, John Lunsford, this last week, signed almost immediately after the Bucs waived him after they picked up a veteran kicker. They got Nick Folk. And I want to read an email from Russ in Lacey, Washington. He said, otherwise known as Turd and Long in the Pick'em League.
Yes.
I was wondering if you will talk about the Hauschka situation. I am a bit confused as to what went down there. If you did talk about it and I missed it, let me know. Keep up the good work. I appreciate each and every episode, especially to keep me connected to our Hawks throughout the long stretch of the off season. I've been a listener since the Super Bowl loss. At that time, I was reaching out for someone to share in the grief and misery, and instead found a voice of hope. I've been a listener ever since. Thank you for what you do. From Russ.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate it, Russ. No, we hadn't gotten to it. We had planned on doing it in a bonus show, but I have a feeling that the Hauschkas did not expect to be out of Seattle when it was all said and done. I think they were pretty surprised based on the statement that his wife posted. I don't know if it was Twitter or Instagram or whatever. It must have been Instagram. But it says this: in this time of transition, it's easy to hide in feelings of anger or bitterness that things didn't go the way you expected, or alternatively, fear of the unknown. When we take a deep breath, however, those aren't the feelings we're left with at all. We are left with impossible joy, love, and happiness. Joy in both old experiences and awaiting the new. Happiness in the amazing times we've had in Seattle in anticipation of what I'm sure will be an incredible adventure in Buffalo. Love overwhelms us the most. The love we have for Seattle and for friends, family, and fans there. Love we've received from everyone as we embark on a new journey out east. Thank you from the bottom of our hearts. That was the entire statement. The beginning of that is very interesting to me. It's easy to hide in feelings of anger or bitterness that things didn't go the way you expected. I think that through conversations over the last year or so, they really felt like John Schneider was going to extend Stephen Hauschka.
I'm surprised he didn't still. And especially when I look at the contract that he got from the Bills, a 3-year, $8.9 million deal. His cap hit for this year is like $2.6 million.
Right.
And if you were going to ask me, would I rather have Gary Gilliam and Parrish Cox or Steve Hauschka, who, has lots of playoff experience kicking the football? I'd rather have Steve Hauschka.
Well, and here again, back to Eddie. Would you rather have Eddie or Stephen Hauschka?
That one would be tougher. That one would be tougher for me.
Similar cap hit.
Tougher for me because I think Seahawks
I guess the real question is, would you rather have Eddie Lacy and Blair Walsh or Stephen Hauschka?
I'd rather
that's the this or that, right? Like that's how it's gone down.
I'd rather have Hauschka over Jokel.
Well, again, like we gotta.
If we get
have
to pick and choose our players, I'm saying that I'd have a $1 time giving up Eddie Lacy.
I know you're not high on the Jokel thing, but like we have to bring an offensive lineman.
Oh yeah, bring in a $5 million lineman rather than a $7 million one.
Well, sure, but I'd like to see him bring in even more. I'd like to see him spend more on the offensive line.
Oh, okay. Well, you sounded like you just wanted dudes, and so.
I want dudes. I want 4 or 5 dudes to come in and compete, and and if you're going to get rid of Stephen Hauschka like they did, and try to in a cost saving measure, then give me more dudes to come in and compete. Like if that's what we're doing, then that's what I want.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was my. You take that cost that you just saved by getting rid of Hauschka, and you put that and more to Eddie Lacy, and it's like. That's a bummer. You know?
I don't think we need to rehash the Eddie Lacy debate, but I think that this is a move that does concern me, not bringing Hauschka back, because, as soon as you have one of these guys, whether it's Lunsford or whether it's Walsh, that ends up maybe they draft a guy or bring in an undrafted guy who wins the job. As soon as that guy misses an important kick in a critical moment, you're going to remember back to Steve Money Hauschka and how he made so many of those important kicks for you, and wonder what if that if the Seahawks would have just paid a little bit more to keep him in Seattle, which this is so much different than when Josh Brown left the Seahawks back in the day. Remember? Because he was just a beloved kicker by Seahawks fans. And it seemed like he was going to come back. And then he goes, and it almost felt like he stabbed Seattle fans in the back and went to the division rival, St. Louis Rams at the time. Yep. And that was really hard for Seahawks fans to take at the time. This seems totally different. I feel like there's still a lot of love for Hauschka out there, and there were some people that were kind of indifferent of whether he would stay or go based off of his performance last season. Yeah. But it doesn't have that same. He didn't want to go like Josh Brown seemingly did.
Doesn't seem that way, does it? And here's the reason why the Hauschka thing concerns me a great deal is when you think about this team and how they're built and how they play games. How many times have the Seahawks come out on the losing end by more than 10 points in the last?
They're always close games.
They're close games. And when you're in close games, you need a kicker that has ice water in his veins for the most part and knows how to get it done in the clutch. I'm not sure Blair Walsh is that guy. Am I really rooting for him to find that Pro Bowl form again? You better believe I am. But it's a critical position. Special teams are a third of the game. We talk about it all the time. And, for the money, this is a tough one to let go. I'm not sure that we got better.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that we got better this way.
It doesn't feel like it. A couple other guys that the Seahawks did bring in this past week. I mentioned linebacker Arthur Brown's name on the last show. He ends up getting signed. We still don't know who that is. Safety Bradley McDougall got a 1 year, $2 million deal from coming over from the Bucs. So 2 Bucs players signed in almost the exact same day. And he's able to play both safety positions, it sounds like. And talking to Anthony of Knock On Sports, who we've had on the show, Bucs fan, he said McDougall he's a solid player that keeps things in front of him, and he thinks we're going to like him.
Yeah, borderline starter caliber player.
Yeah.
I've seen some articles where people are talking about the idea that the Seahawks could toy with the idea of turning him into a corner or in that sort of thing because of his size and his physical attributes. I mean, he's in that corner range that they look for quite a bit. So, yeah, maybe that's something they do. I'm not sure. I do enjoy the signing in the sense that he's a guy that has played, has a lot of experience, somebody that could come in and actually get the job done. There's no doubt about that. Is he the same guy as Earl Thomas, Cam Chancellor? No. But he's, like I said, borderline starter caliber player. And when you have your safeties relearning to walk in the offseason, this is a good thing.
Right. Yeah. Earl Thomas looks like he's up and running, and Cam Chancellor up walking around. And
with Carolyn McRae leaving the team,
right,
there's a big void.
Or not necessarily leaving the team, but still unsigned, right?
Correct. Yeah.
So there
not
is
on the roster. Yeah, that's the better way to say that.
There is that uncertainty there. So now it feels like now going into the draft, they've kind of addressed each of these positions to where you can say, yes, if we don't get one of the top guys, now they can draft based on who's the best player on the board in those particular rounds, as opposed to saying, yes, you have to get a corner in round 1, or you have to go out and get a guard in round 1, or because a tackle's probably not going to be there as far as one of the star, well, not stars, but one of the top 3 guys.
Yeah, more highly touted guys.
Right. So now they've kind of set themselves up to be able to go into the draft in a pretty good spot.
Yeah, and that's something that we've seen the Seahawks do kind of year in and year out. I mean, John Schneider does like to try to keep himself in a place where he's not boxed in by any stretch. And with the offseason the last 2 years, I mean, you're a little boxed in when it comes to offensive line. That's why I'd like to see maybe another dude or two signed, close to that veteran minimum. And then now you do just have that buffer room. And if you don't get an offensive lineman that you're really interested in those first 3 rounds, you got to wait till, round 6, 7 right in there. So I'd say that's the only place where it does feel like they are a little in the area of need rather than, just being able to go out and just get best guy available still. But for the most part, every other position group, I mean, you can pick or choose when you get that linebacker, when you get that corner, when you get the safety and things like that. So I think they're solid moves, and again, not break the bank type moves. I like it.
But I think the main point is now that the Seahawks kind of they're up against that cap. Mentioned last week, Luke Wilson signed a deal. His numbers 1 year, $1.8 million for Luke Wilson. Nico Thorpe, we talked about him, 2 year, $3.5. Deshaun Shedd, 1 year, 1.5.
What was Wilson's again?
1.8.
For 1 year?
For 1 year.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I thought it was earlier reported it was somewhere around 3, but if it's at 1.8, okay.
Yeah, that doesn't seem so bad, does it?
No, not at all. Yeah. No, that would change my opinion on that signing.
Yeah, $1 million with an $800,000 signing bonus.
Wow. Considering what he was supposed to get on the market?
Yeah, and that dude from the Colts who got like $7 million.
Yeah, I guess the league does not value backup tight ends from Rice.
No, only starting tight ends from Rice, as it turns out.
Yeah, so, interesting. At 1.8, that's a solid signing at that point. I like Luke Wilson at that number.
Good.
That makes me happy. Yeah.
A couple guys who visited and didn't sign, got a visit from Ryan Clady. It sounds like he's still out there on the open market, but visited. And I wonder about veteran guys, if they kind of stick around until after the draft. And maybe they see that as another...
when they stick around too, Brandon. When veteran guys like that stick around too. They wait till OTAs are done. They wait till all that crap's done, and it's just getting close to actual training camp.
Yeah. So Ryan Clady, once it gets closer to training camp, that seems like a good time for him to find a team. Kamar Aiken visited. He ended up signing with the Colts. So
wasn't super interested in him, even though I think he's a good player. Yeah.
Big body guy. He's kind of in that Jermaine Kearse mold.
You think he's a big body guy? What's his?
I thought he was like 6'3".
Oh, I don't think he's that big. I always felt he was more like maybe built more like Marvin Harrison would be a good comp. Like just by looking at him, I've never seen his height or weight.
Yeah,
that'd have just been my guess if I had to guess.
He's 6'2". Yeah,
he's that tall. Yeah, didn't know. Okay,
which is big for a Seahawks wide receiver.
6'2" is a sizable wide receiver. Yeah. I mean, they can't all be 6'9", I mean, not everybody's as gifted as Tanner McAvoy.
Right. That's one guy that I didn't bring up as a Rookie of the Year nominee.
Oh, good point. That would be my vote then.
Because I know you're a Tanner McAvoy
Just
fan.
because my man crush is so high.
Yeah.
He was out there working out with Russ.
Nice.
Yeah.
I thought I saw him. Yeah. I couldn't tell if it was him or Luke Wilson.
I think somebody had mentioned in the captions or whatever it was Tanner McAvoy. So
that's good.
Because it's important to know these things. You're welcome, everybody. Yeah. Guys are doing football things, like it's their job in the offseason. Amazing. What a great story.
Yeah. Well, a guy who's not been busy doing football things, but in football news, Marshawn Lynch. And we saw this last week that USA Today reported they actually went and talked to Marshawn Lynch's agent. Can you believe that? Doing some actual reporting. Going and talking to an agent.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, what did they write for a headline after doing that?
Essentially that the media was blowing this whole comeback story way out of proportion.
Oh, see, those weren't so I guess it was the re-reports of the USA story that I had seen, the recycled news, right?
Uh-huh.
And they were headlines like, Marshawn Lynch's agent tells us exactly what's going to happen with Marshawn Lynch. Or, things like that.
Yeah, do you know what exactly he said? He said, I don't know what Marshawn's going to do. That's exactly what he said.
I mean, he basically said that he hadn't, Marshawn hasn't made any moves whatsoever to come back.
Yeah. Isn't your agent supposed to be the guy talking up the possibility of a comeback?
Well, that's half of it there too. This isn't happening. I mean, I know there's a lot of stories out there, and in this day and age, they get amplified by the retelling. I mean, how many people retweet and repackage and rewrite that same story, right? So it seems like there's all these stories about Marshawn Lynch come back, when in reality, it's the same story that's been recycled 16 times. And, one thing that I realized that I learned a new media trick this week, Brandon.
Ooh.
And this is a pretty cool trick. So you first write the story, Marshawn Lynch may want to return to the NFL, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you run with that for a couple weeks, and that gets you a lot of clicks. Everybody gets excited. And then, then you write a story like Marshawn Lynch is asked for his release, which is inherently untrue because he didn't. Apparently he may have met with the team, may have not. I've seen both reports, but he most decidedly did not ask for his release. So you write that and you say, Marshawn Lynch wants to come back. So you go from may want to come back to Marshawn Lynch wants to return to football. Mm-hmm. And then you run with that for a couple weeks, you get your clicks, and it's all good. And then what you do when you've run out of that, because it's the offseason, you write a story the next week or 2 weeks down the line, and you say Marshawn Lynch really wants to play football again. You just add really in front of it. And then you let that propagate for another 2 weeks and you get your clicks. So whenever you're out of news, then you just redo, for example, last week, my headline would have been Adam Emmer unhappy with Eddie Lacy signing. And that gets me some clicks and stuff, right? And then this week, to just redo that, I'd write the headline, Adam Emmer really doesn't like the Eddie Lacy signing. And then I get my clicks and everything. It's a neat trick. It's a really neat media trick.
And then the week after, you can demand that he be cut from the team.
Yeah, right. Yeah, just taking a whole nother step. This silly season this year is unreal, man. This is out of control.
Well, the one thing that did give me pause about the whole Marshawn Lynch thing was hearing Michael Robinson on 710 ESPN. He was on Brock and Salk, and he talked about how he thought that if Marshawn Lynch were free and clear from the Seahawks contract, and because he still is under contract with the Seahawks, could potentially have to pay back money to the team if he decides to play again. If he were free and clear, he said Marshawn Lynch would be playing for Oakland next year.
Cool. I mean, the reason why I understand that this is a lot of smoke and no fire, and it's not even smoke, is that I remember when Barry Sanders retired at about the same age.
Oh, yeah.
You remember the Barry Sanders comeback stories?
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't just the first year after.
No,
it wasn't
2 or 3
just
years
the second.
after.
It was 4 to 5 years after you were still hearing Barry Sanders possibly to come back. And that was in a day and age where we didn't have this echo chamber of Twitter and Facebook and all that.
He probably would have come back to play if it wasn't going to be for the Lions.
No. Barry Sanders was done. He was done.
I don't know.
I've listened to him talk about this on multiple different shows.
He said he was done.
Yeah, he felt very at peace with walking away from the game when he did. It had nothing to do with the Lions. It really didn't. And that was a story that was misreported for a long time too. So this feels a lot the same way as it does for this Marshawn Lynch stuff for me. A guy who retires at an age where he can still play. And everybody desperately wants him to come back. I mean, that article, the world needs Marshawn Lynch. Well, we still have Marshawn Lynch. He just doesn't play football. I kind
of want him to play football, though.
Well, sure. As a selfish human being, I'd love to watch one of the all-time greats, you lace it up and do it again. I wanted Barry Sanders to come back.
Oh, yeah.
Just out of selfishness. But look, man, if you're done, you're done. Enjoy yourself. And that's what Marshawn's doing.
Hey, the more he's in the news, the more he gets people into the Beast Mode store there in Oakland. And
this hasn't been bad for his deal.
I don't
that's
think
for
so.
sure.
I don't think it's bad.
No, he's no dummy. That's why he hasn't come out and said, that's why he hasn't squashed anything. But if you really want to read the tea leaves, has he done anything to really procure his reinstatement into the league? No, he hasn't filed unretirement papers. He hasn't asked the Seahawks for his release. He hasn't spoke directly with the Raiders.
I saw G. Scott post on Facebook that Marshawn unretired.
No, well, that's patently false. He got it wrong,
well,
which happens. And I like G.
Yeah.
I like G. But sometimes he gets catfish wrong. Like I got the cap space wrong. It happens.
When you talk a lot, you're bound to say something wrong every once in a while.
All the time. Yeah. Yeah. So,
well, Michael Bennett's a guy that talks a lot, and he has named his 3 breakout guys for the 2017 season. 2 of them on offense. Last year, he picked his 1 guy on defense. He picked Frank Clark to have a breakout season. Turns out he had double-digit sacks. Really big year for Frank Clark. The guy on the defensive line now that he's picking out, Jaron Reed, he says is set for a breakout season. And he has 2 guys on offense. One of those guys, running back Thomas Rawls, and then the other guy, offensive lineman Gary Gilliam, who Bennett says is set for a breakout season. What do you think of these 3 guys that Michael Bennett has his eye on for 2017?
Well, I do love me some Nostra Bennett. Like he is definitely a soothsayer when it comes to defensive linemen. I know that much. So the idea that he's calling for Jaron Reed to have a breakout year, that makes a lot of sense to me. Going out on the limb and saying Thomas Rawls will have a breakout year doesn't seem like that's much out on a limb. Basically, all he has to do is just not get hurt.
Oh yeah, we've seen from Thomas Rawls what he can do. Go back to the Detroit Lions playoff game, and the impact that he had on that game. Yeah,
near the end of the season. So, it makes that's not a bold prediction, I don't think. But the Gilliam one, because I was told all about how Gilliam was making the jump last year and he was going to be our left tackle, and he had the athleticism for it and he really had learned, and from that conversion from being a tight end, blah, 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 blah. And now I'm hearing the same thing again, only he's going to make a jump at the same position he was at, I guess, that he was healthy at for the majority of the season, even lost his job at one point. So listening to Michael Bennett predict defensive linemen, I feel like he's got some expertise there. When it comes to offensive players, I take it with a little more of a grain of salt. I'll just put it that way.
I like it because who does Michael Bennett go up against in practice every day? He goes up against offensive linemen. So I would think as a talent evaluator, a defensive lineman would be a good guy at being able to identify that talent. And if I'm going to be Mr. Optimist, like I usually am on the show.
Usually are. Right. Yeah, it's kind of gross. Yeah.
It's a sickness. But I would say that maybe after Gilliam got benched, there were talks that he wasn't even going to be on the team anymore. John Clayton, I heard him out there saying that Gary Gilliam is probably not going to play another snap in the Seahawks uniform. It's something along those lines. And he was able to bounce back, get back his starting job and finish out the season. Sometimes we just need that one kick in the butt to really motivate us. And maybe that was the moment for Gilliam. Now, that's what the optimist in me says.
Well, and that's a nice story.
Gary.
Here's one thing. If I'm going to play along with your logic here, is to me it seemed as if Gary struggled the most with power rushers. He was pretty decent with the speed guys, but if you gave him a solid bull rush, he's in Russell Wilson's lap, right?
Mm-hmm.
And out of all the things to improve upon as a player, one of the easiest things to improve upon is strength. I mean, it's literally just doing lifting of the weights.
Mm-hmm.
And that's pretty much it. Like, you don't have to develop a new skill to become better in that arena. You just have to be stronger. You just have to lift more weight up and down, over the off season. So the area in which he could improve the most is an area that is technically easily improvable.
Well, there you go. You've identified it. Put it up on the board. Gary Gilliam. Just do some lifting.
Yeah. To quote Richard Sherman, you're too weak. You're too weak. Got to lift more. Wasting my time.
Okay, well, real quick, I want to visit seahawkerspodcast.com/auction and see what's up on Pristine Auction. I didn't win the Bosworth helmet last week,
what?
Adam. I know.
What did it end up going for?
I don't know. I tried to look it up. I couldn't find it, but I do see that there's another one up there. And I once again, I have my eye on it, but there's a lot of things on here that I have my eye on. And I do really like there's this Russell Wilson jersey that's on here. It's one of the Nike Elite jerseys. It's a size 52. And these Nike Elite jerseys, these are the ones that run for like $300 brand new.
Right. Yeah.
And this one is signed with a certificate of authenticity. And this certificate's from Mill Creek Sports, which is a local Seattle shop. They also have a couple framed ones. There's a blue one that's framed. It's only $20 right now.
Do frame jerseys go for more or less in general than non-frame jerseys?
From what I've seen, they go for more because they're already in the frame.
Okay. Because there's a lot of people that like to wear them. So I didn't know if that was a defining factor.
I just don't want to have to do the work of actually framing it myself, which is why the already framed ones are appealing to me.
Yeah, you build frames out in your garage?
I do not.
Oh, so when you mean by do the work, you mean go to the store and hand it to the framer and say, do this.
Right. That's too much work for me going to the framer to ask him to do it.
You may rephrase the word work within that. Like that's all I'm getting at.
But whatever work is to be done, it's already been done is the main point.
Right.
It's already in the frame.
Yeah, exactly.
So go to seahawkerspodcast.com/auction and you can see what's up there. And, if you win something from Pristine Auction, let us know. Share it with us. And we want to see a picture. And I'll share my picture of the Pete Carroll autographed helmet.
Very cool. Very cool.
All right. One last thing before we get to the break, Adam. I want to talk a little bit of running backs in the draft because last show, you said the idea that you have to draft a back in the first round to get a good one is a joke. And I went back and I looked in past drafts. And really, if you want a really solid running back, and unless you're talking about getting a guy like Thomas Rawls, like Arian Foster, guys that just somehow slip all the way through the draft and end up being, one of those diamonds in the rough type guys.
Sure. That's like looking for Russell Wilson or Tom Brady or things like that as a quarterback. Right. I understand where you're going with that.
For the most part, the top backs that have gone in the draft these last few years, apart from one guy, David Johnson, who came out of a smaller school, for the most part, the best backs have gone in the first round. And that got me thinking that, with Christian McCaffrey looking like he's going to go up high, with Leonard Fournette looking like he's going to go in the top 10. And then you have your dude from Florida State that he kind of looks like he may be around the 20 spot for the Seahawks. But really, when I look back at the guys who have really succeeded, it's been either the first or second guy off the board. That it seems like the NFL, since Trent Richardson, have really got it right when evaluating running backs and taking the right guys at the right point in the draft. And it got me thinking about that idea of trading up for Leonard Fournette and the idea that you wanted to ask Rob Staten about this when we had him on the show a couple weeks ago, to get an idea of what the cost of that would be to the team, because really that's the trade-off. That's the trade-off is the cost. For kind of a comparable look at it, I went back and I looked at the Julio Jones trade for the Falcons. Yeah, because they were about the same point in the draft in 2011 that the Seahawks are this year. Atlanta had the 27th pick in the first round of that draft. The Seahawks have number 26 this year. And what they did to move up to the number 6 overall pick, they traded to the Browns. They traded their 27th pick in the first round. They traded the second round pick, the 4th round pick, and then the first and the 4th rounder for 2012.
So how many total picks then?
5 total picks.
Okay. And how many out of that same year?
Just 3. The first, they swapped firsts, and the Falcons gave them their 2nd and 4th in that same year. Okay.
And then 3 more picks the following year. I'm sorry. I tried really hard to pay attention, but I zoned out for half a second.
Just 2 more picks, a first rounder and a 4th rounder in 2012.
So a total of 4 picks other than the swap.
Right.
And one of them's a first rounder, and then
I think the key is that you get an extra first rounder the following year. That's kind of a big deal.
Yeah, but also, what was it, a couple fourths?
A second in the current year, and then 2 fourths.
Okay.
And that moved them up.
A first, second, and 2 fourths, whether that's in the same year or 2 different years or whatever. That was more or less the cost.
Right.
Okay.
And that moved them up 21 spots to go from 27 up to number 6. And I got to thinking, was that 2011 draft? Was it light on talent? And no, it wasn't. You think about
it, a decent one.
It was a good draft. 2011 is when the Seahawks got KJ Wright. They got Richard Sherman. That was in rounds 3 and 5. But they got some talent that year. And I started thinking, if the Seahawks had given up something comparable, if you want to take a look in terms of a Seahawks fan, because I could name off all the players that the Browns got. They got nobody, but I could name off those players and they wouldn't mean anything to you. So I want to give you a comp that's similar for the Seahawks. Okay. So the Seahawks, they would have given up James Carpenter because he was the number 25 pick.
Okay.
They traded their second round pick for a third and a fifth. So that would have been John Moffitt. And then I'm going to say Mark Legree, because Richard Sherman and Mark Legree were within 2 picks of each other.
Right.
And
so to give it the benefit of the doubt. Okay.
And Sherman was the one that they wanted most. So I would, I'll just say Mark Legree.
Okay.
And Chris Durham was a guy that they got in the 4th round.
Wow. Yeah.
And then in the 2012 draft, they got Bruce Irvin in the 1st round.
Okay.
And Jay Howard in the 4th round.
Okay. So 3 guys that are out of the league.
And
Howard's playing for the Chiefs, isn't he?
Howard's playing for the Chiefs. James Carpenter's playing for the Jets. Bruce Irvin's playing for the Raiders. Right. And 2 guys who are out of the league.
2 guys who are out of the league. A guy who's inconsequential. A guy in Bruce Irvin who was a starter quality player, but not a star. And then who else then? Carpenter and Moffitt were, Carpenter basically was middling throughout his Seahawks career.
Right.
That's interesting.
For Julio Jones.
I guess the question then becomes, since you have all of those picks, right, and you take swings at all those guys, whether it's Moffitt or Carpenter or whoever, right, and including Legree and then Sherman, if you have fewer swings, do you hit on a Sherman then?
That's the question.
So that's
you definitely wouldn't give up Julio Jones for Richard Sherman. Well, it would be kind of a wash.
Yeah, I don't know that you're getting better at that point. Yeah, so that's kind of a steep cost, and I do like the idea of somebody like Leonard Fournette, because he is that style that the Seahawks would very much like to get back to, and I do enjoy that idea, but the cost to me is too rich for my blood. And you brought up the idea that the good backs go in the early rounds. Well, if your definition is a franchise back, like AP and Ezekiel Elliott and guys like that, right?
Those guys go in the top 10.
Yes, absolutely. I would not argue with that. So my argument is that you can draft a guy who can come in and be your second or third back on the depth chart as depth, because your franchise back is Thomas Rawls. I feel like we already have that player.
Okay.
So it's about adding the depth to go with it, not looking for another franchise guy.
I see.
And maybe that's one of the ways that on the Eddie Lacy thing that we didn't see eye to eye is the idea that you look at Eddie Lacy and go, well, yeah, but this could be a legitimate franchise guy because he came from the 2nd round. Where me, I was looking at more like I'd rather have some other dudes and then get another guy just to fill in depth wise behind the running backs that I personally really like. So it just depends on how you look at it. It depends on your lens and what you're hoping to accomplish with the draft into the position group.
Yeah, it was just interesting to me to consider that potential.
How many quality starters do you hope to pull out of a draft? Like realistically, I mean, I'm sure if you had your 7 picks, and you didn't have extra picks and all that, everybody would say 7, right? But realistically,
2 or 3. I think 2 or 3 realistically. If you can get that, you're doing better than most teams, I think.
Right. So basically, if you had 2/3 of your draft picks in 2 drafts, do you think John Schneider has the ability, say you get Fournette and then you've got some late round stuff, do you think he finds one more starter quality person like in those later rounds?
Based on his history, I feel pretty good.
Quality backup,
I feel pretty good about his ability to use those third round picks pretty well.
With the idea that you've signed Lacey now, you're not doing it.
Yeah, probably not.
Yeah.
And
but
being up against the cap too, you're looking at increasing. It would increase their draft pool money by
how would it increase it? Because you're bringing in lesser guys. You're bringing fewer guys.
But
yeah, so it'd be lesser.
Going from 1.8 million at that number 26 spot to up to about 4 million if you pick him in the number 6 spot.
Sure, in a lot of those, 4, 5, 6, 4th, 5th, 6th round guys. They're $500,000 or so a piece. So you lose 4 of them. That's a couple million. So you end up in the wash being about the same.
Yeah, it probably washes out.
Because I know how the cap works really well.
You demonstrated that really well.
Mm-hmm. Awesome, Adam. See, I'm the first one to come out here and say that I'm ridiculous when it's ridiculous.
All right, Adam. Well, I think that rounds out our first half of the show.
Wonderful.
What do you say we come back from the break, read some email? We got a lot of new members of the flock.
There's a couple reviews I noticed on the app. Yeah. So good stuff. Appreciate it, folks. And get you on the flip side.
As we mentioned in past shows, the Seahawkers annual banquet coming up May 20th in Bellevue. Go to Seahawkers.org. You can get your tickets there. We'll be getting to our round of Do Better and Better at Life this week. A lot of great email. Adam mentioned before the break, we have a review. And but first, I want to say thanks to our new members of the flock. Starting with Tim Schmidt. Welcome to the flock. He joins our Ring of Honor on Facebook. So in our Facebook group, welcome, Tim.
Can't wait to have you a part of the dialogue. Man, the Ring of Honor is, I know I've said it a zillion times. It's fun, man. It's fun. It's where I do my most interaction.
Oh, yeah. And another thing that we really enjoy come the season, once it rolls around, the Pick'em League. We got 3 more people joining us in the Pick'em.
Yeah.
So,
all right.
Welcome to the flock to Maurizio Montavani. And welcome to the flock to Tanner Boone. And welcome to Cameron Cole. All joining the Pick'em League.
Holy smokes, it was a big week. You guys are amazing.
I know.
We're going to be bearing down on 300 patrons at like no time.
I know. We're up to 165. And Cameron, when he joined, said, "Hey, guys, after a recent episode in which the argument was put forth that, quote, if you're checking your phone /device during the week to see if a new episode has been released, it's time to get into the flock. I realized it was time."
All right, good. Because, I mean, that's just facts, logic, and reason, man.
Yeah, I feel like that's a good, the tipping point.
It is.
To measure yourself by.
To you wonderful new members of the flock and all the current members of the flock, be sure to fill out the form and get on either Cheeseburger in Paradise or China Food Chubster. Which team? Because you're going to be getting the winning group, a Seahawkers podcast keychain bottle opener, that's prestige right there. That's prestigious.
Last I checked, you are doing horribly with recruiting members for your team.
You know what I wasn't here to do? Win a popularity contest. That was not the point. And look, I figured wholeheartedly, I believe that you would have a lot more people join your side, because as fans, we want to believe that the moves that we're making are going to be positive and really work out. And that's how most fans come at it. So I understand that. I understand there's going to be more people on it. Thing is that when I win, it's going to cost us way less money to send out these keychains. So it's really financially way better for us.
I suppose you're right. Back to Cameron's email, says, "I'm a Seahawks fan since 2004, age 16 when I got into football, from the Seattle area, but now living in Patriots country of all places.
Hey.
I'm sure you can imagine my pain over the last couple of years. Anyway, I only recently discovered your podcast and am hooked. Thanks for taking the time to put a new episode out there every week. It makes the off season significantly less torturous, so keep them coming. Go Hawks."
Awesome. Well, thanks for taking the time to download the show. I mean, that's why it ends up being worth it. So for all of you who haven't done it already, hit the subscribe button. Yeah, it's the little button that makes it easier. Then you don't have to check your phone all the time, because when it's ready to rock, bunk, comes right to you.
or get one of our apps. That makes it even easier. Go to seahawkerspodcast.com. You can see all the apps we offer, or you can go to seahawkerspodcast.com/your device. So if you're on an iOS, go /iOS. If you're on Google, go /Android. If you're on Windows, go seahawkerspodcast.com/Windows, and that'll take you right to the page where you can download our app.
Absolutely. And the app is pretty cool. We actually had a few people review the app here in the month of March, which we really appreciate. Basically, Joseph Lang gives us 5 stars. No commentary, but that's cool. He took the time to at least put 5 stars. Yeah. Kevin Moore, also 5 stars. And Jace Scott, 5 stars. And this is what Jace had to say. Really glad I gave this podcast a shot a few years ago, and I've been a weekly listener ever since. Became a member of the flock a few months ago and love listening to these guys talk Hawks. In my opinion, great value for value. Thanks a lot, Jace. We appreciate that a ton. And you guys are awesome. Everybody that hits subscribe and reviews the show and all of that, it helps other people find the show.
And thanks to Jace for being in the flock. We got 3 more people to welcome to the flock who I have stickers going out to. Yes, 3 more.
Whoa.
And I already have the stickers in the envelope and stamped and addressed going out.
Oh, hold on.
I know.
This is within the same week?
That's how caught up I am now.
I'm super impressed by you right now. I'm super impressed by you. Good job, man.
I feel pretty good about it. So
yeah.
Robert Asbury, he's in for $1. Got stickers going out. Welcome to Robert. Welcome to Adam Ray. And he has stickers going out to him. And also welcome to the flock to Chris Balding.
Awesome. Thanks again, guys. It really is amazing. The support is overwhelming.
Chris sent along a note, says, hey, guys, just wanted to say I have now managed to join the flock. Says he wish it could have been more, and I would say don't ever give more than you feel comfortable giving.
At all, man. Anything is very appreciated, man. Very appreciated. Never apologize.
Right. And Chris goes on to say, keep up the great show. Love listening to you guys, even if I don't agree with Adam all the time, especially about the impact of Luke Wilson. Best of luck and go Hawks.
That's the one, huh? Okay. All right. Well, I appreciate it, Chris. I mean, unfortunately, though you heard me say on this podcast that price tag, $1.8 million for the year, I'm far less sad about this Luke Wilson thing.
We also had a review come in on iTunes. It says, great insight in Seahawks news from CD Hill. It says, love the podcast, guys. Adam and Brandon are knowledgeable, opinionated. I mean that in a good way, and very entertaining. I learn a lot and laugh at their jokes and rants. They do their research so that each episode is informative and not just regurgitating the news or repeating the opinions of others.
Oh, thanks, man. You know, that review, that actually means a lot, because I know the amount of work that especially Brandon puts in the prep and, coming up with topics in our own ideas and trying to keep it fresh. So just like you said, it's not like you just tuned into Brock and Salk 2.0 or, the Seahawks segment on Around the NFL podcast or whatever. Like, hopefully it's a fresh, or even what the folks over at Field Goals do, hopefully it's different than what you get from Kenneth Arthur and folks. Not that they do a bad job, just that so that there's more for you to consume, man.
Yeah, because if we were copying them, then why listen to us?
Right. Exactly.
All right, let's get into some email.
Wonderful.
RJ from Coeur d'Alene, starting out with him, says, hey guys, I'm a fan of the show, and it's awesome to get some Montana representation on Google Play. I grew up in Columbia Falls.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, but on to business. Adam, I know you want the Hawks to add more O-linemen that are on the market, but that isn't going to fix anything, if much at all. You need to build continuation and chemistry in order to be a good offensive line, so completely blowing up the O-line for a 3rd consecutive year is not the answer. Yeah, 1 or 2 guys will help, but by the sounds of it, you want them to completely blow up the line and build around Britt, but in reality, you have 3 and possibly 4 starters figured out already, and here's why.
Oh, wow. That's a stretch. I'm just going to say that's a big stretch before he starts here.
Britt, obviously, for how he played last year. Glow really wasn't that bad. He's not Zach Martin, but he can get the job done, and he got better as the year went on. Ifedi was the rookie, and although he had some rough spots, he looked pretty good too. Now, I'm not a huge fan of Gilliam either, but he did look a lot better after getting benched last year, and when Michael Bennett was asked who would have a breakout year, he said Gilliam, and Bennett isn't type to blow smoke. And he correctly predicted Frank Clark last year when asked. If he said it, he means it. So now you have Fant, who they added competition to push him to get better. So either Fant is going to step up or an average left tackle in Jokel, who hasn't reached his full potential yet either, is going to take over. As far as Lacey getting signed, Pete Carroll and staff have a gift for getting the most out of everybody. Just remember that. Thanks for all your hard work, guys, and keep it up. Go Hawks.
Go Hawks, man. Look, I'm not saying blow up the entire offensive line.
I kind of got that sense.
This is what I'm saying, to clarify. Britt definitely is the one guy that I look at and say, okay, I know what I'm getting, and I feel, well, I almost know what I'm getting. I've seen it for 1 year. And I'm comfortable writing him in semi-permanent, maybe erasable pen. Like, it's still pen, but if I really had to, I could erase it.
You could erase it.
Now, as far as Glowinski goes, yes, he was the next guy closest to being a real, live, serviceable offensive lineman. And I think that he has the ability to learn and grow again from yet another year of experience on the line. So I would imagine that Glowinski's going to be your left guard. That'd be my guess. Now, when it comes to Fant, he's a gigantic dumpster fire that is years away, and we gotta look for somebody else. Got to. So that's one position I would say, without question, blow it up. The idea that Jokel comes in, I think. Look, if your expectation when he was drafted, or at least the league's expectation, is he's going to be a franchise left tackle, and he's not that. But if you recalibrate your expectation to say he can at least be a mid-tier left tackle, and you go back and you watch his tape, and I've read some articles about it as well, people who've done just that, and I've done that same thing, you can absolutely be that guy. You can absolutely be that guy. It's within, but it all depends on the knee. That's your biggest risk.
Right.
Now, when it comes to Ifedi, it scares the bejesus out of me that he was the worst in football at right guard. He was a first-round draft pick, so you're hoping that he's going to start again the next year. But I want somebody to come in and push him. And whether that means that he gets bumped out to right tackle or whatever, that sort of thing. Ideally, he'll probably start, whether it's right guard or right tackle. Gilliam, I'm done with. I'm legitimately over it. He's been at this for a while now, and I know I just said earlier in the pod, but I was trying to speak to your argument. It's not in him. It's not in him, and I'm ready. I'm ready to move on from that. So to recap, 3 of the guys I would say I feel fairly comfortable giving a shot as the starter this next year. I want to see 2 positions replaced, and how you do it is, a bit flexible. That's why I want 4 or 5 guys to be brought into camp to replace 2 dudes. I want that amount of competition to replace 2 dudes. So I don't want to blow the whole thing up.
Yeah, even still, though, you're talking about only starting 2 guys in the same spot as last year.
It was the worst offensive line in football by far.
Yeah.
Drastic change is needed.
Okay.
Change is needed.
So RJ is correct in that assessment, that you want drastic change.
Keeping 3 starters and replacing 2, that's pretty close to drastic change, yes.
Okay.
But it's certainly not retooling the entire unit.
Yeah.
I want to keep 3/5 of it. So I would like to keep more of it than I want to get rid of.
Sure.
How drastic is that? That's up to you to decide.
It all depends on how you look at it as far as the drasticness of the change, moving guys around the line. If Lewinsky were to start as the guard on the right side and have Ifedi move to tackle, and you have a whole new left side of the line, do you consider that drastic? That
feels more drastic than, say, keeping Britt and Glow where they are, having Jokel at left tackle, and then kicking Ifedi out to right tackle, which he knows how to play.
Oh, yeah.
That was his college position. And then bring in somebody to play right guard.
And if if you ask my opinion, before all this activity in free agency started, my opinion going into the offseason, into free agency, was that keep those three guys, that your center and your two guards, and then you're only changing out the tackles. And to me, that seems like a less drastic move.
I'd be down for that too. If you end up keeping Ifedi at right guard, banking on the idea that, last year was his rookie year, that he missed a large portion of the beginning of the season, and that he's going to grow and become better in that right guard position, and you want to keep that continuity.
Yeah.
Because it's young and it's only been 1 year, I would be on board with that. I'm willing to give that a try. But I want Gilliam and Fant out of there. That's pretty much it. I want them out of the starting lineup.
Okay.
They can be backups. That's cool. But I want them out of the lineup, and however you get that done, I'm fine with.
Next email here from Jerry says, 30 minutes in, and I have to shut off episode 149. First episode.
Oh, no. Did you run out of time? Like, what happened?
First episode from you guys. I couldn't finish. 30 minutes of Adam complaining about Lacey, including the logic that without signing him, we could have signed multiple, let alone one offensive lineman that would make a significant impact. For $3 million? Come on, do better. I'll try and pick up with episode 150 and hope there isn't a half-hour rant on Lacey.
Hey, man, I appreciate you tuning back in this week. I'm sure you've made it this far, Jerry, because we're on a different topics this week. But look, man, if you don't like a strong opinion about a guy that I don't think is going to make a giant addition to our team, that's fine. But the idea that you can't get 2 or 3 linemen in that $3 million range, bullshit. Catfish. You can do it. You can do it. And I talked about it a little bit earlier. And just one of the guys that they brought in, Ode, I don't know his last name yet.
Ibushi.
All right. Well, Ibushi, that's a great example of one of those guys. And you could get 2, 3, 4 of them for about $3 million. And who knows if they make a significant difference or not. But I know that 2 of the guys that have played on the line were the worst in football. So pretty much anybody's an upgrade at that point. That sounds like a difference. And that's all. I just disagree with you on that, Jerry. That's all.
Jerry totally missed out on being able to pick his team, too. So going to getintheflock.com and being able to decide whether he wanted to be. He sounds like he'd be another good member for Team Cheeseburger in Paradise on my team.
Cool. That's fine.
Still taking new team members, by the way. Getintheflock.com.
Yeah, getintheflock.com, folks. And there's a lot of cool stuff that waits for you there.
Here's one from Victor in Palmer, Alaska. On Twitter, @VictorGoodwin. Says, hey guys, as you know, it's been off season for a while, and that means no football. So I have been watching NFL films, and just this morning I was watching top 10 player comebacks.
Of all time?
I think so.
Must be. Okay.
Yeah. So I was just going along and just watching, and at number 6 was Eric Berry, who had cancer, but yet made a comeback and played in the Pro Bowl the very next year. I was so surprised that he wasn't number 1, so I skipped to number 1, which was Adrian Peterson, who tore his ACL, but made a comeback and rushed for 2,000 yards. Yes, I admit it was pretty awesome rushing for 2,000 yards, but yet I think Eric Berry should have been number 1 because that was life-threatening. What is your opinion on the NFL Films top 10 player comebacks? Thanks, Victor. And it says, P.S. Adam, you're wrong about Eddie Lacy.
Yeah, except for I'm not, but that's cool. Yeah, that's interesting on Eric Berry. If you would have told me he was somewhere in that top 10, I would have said, yeah, wherever you want to put him, I'm more or less fine with that. The idea that they put AP above him, I think the difference is what you're seeing in the voters' mind on that is that Eric Berry came back and had a very good year, whereas Adrian Peterson came back, and really this is the first time we've ever seen it, and had a historic year. I mean, there's not many people that go over 2K.
I think the other thing with Peterson that was really impressive is that he was injured late in the season. The
turnaround time was incredible.
Right. He only
and it wasn't just the ACL either. It was other CLs.
Oh, yeah, the ACL and MCL.
Yeah.
Yeah, he just missed the final game the year before in 2011. And so was the fact that he was able to come back and not miss a game in 2012 to be able to start game 1 and get 2,000 yards, I think is what makes that impressive. Now, just running down, number 2 was Steve Smith, who came back after a broken leg. To me, coming back from a broken leg and having a good year and not like an all-time year, that seems...
The broken leg or the Achilles?
This was when he came back after when he broke his leg in 2004.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Huh. I'd say the Achilles was more impressive to me.
And then he came back and he led the NFL in receiving yards the year after.
Interesting. Okay.
Peyton Manning coming back after his neck surgeries, number 3.
Okay, yeah. I mean, nerve damage and the idea that you may never be able to actually even grip a football again, like nobody really knew. I think that's a solid one.
Yeah, and had one of the all-time offenses, taking the Broncos to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, historic, yeah.
Oh, Eric Berry's not... This must be an old list. Eric Berry's not even on this list.
No,
2012 list.
Well, look, that's one of the things where, there's a lot of guys who've come back from a lot, right? And I'm not trying to minimize what Eric Berry came back from at all.
Yeah.
When the news first broke of his condition, the news is that his specific form of cancer was, quote unquote, highly treatable.
No, I think but having to go through cancer treatment does a lot to break down your body.
Oh, big time. Yeah, that I'm not. The point was being made that it was a life-threatening thing where AP's wasn't. In the email. So, but the effects of chemo and all of that, I've heard, our friend Jared talk about that. And it's no joke.
Right.
It's no joke. Yeah. And again, for him to be in the all-time top 10 of players ever, I think he belongs in there. And, it's 4, 5, 6. That sounds about right to me.
I didn't with Victor. I think it should be a little higher, though. But to me, the fact that Adrian Peterson, the reason why he gets number 1 is because for the kind of injury that he had, to come back in that short a time and be able to do what he did was really impressive.
Yes, absolutely.
Here's one from Tim Schmidt, one of our new members of the flock as well. Says, hey guys, thanks for the excellent work that you do on the show. I know the off season requires more work, and that's why I've joined the flock as well to support you. Man. I've been a Hawks fan since day one, but your podcast has helped me to enjoy following so much more. One of my favorite segments of the show is Do Better and Better at Life. I generally think you guys are right on with your selections. However, I think you missed a big Do Better this week. I don't know how closely you follow the Seattle media's coverage of the team, but they are beginning to get me fired up. Last week, with all the rumors and speculation about Richard Sherman being traded, the radio hosts of Danny, Dave, and more on the ESPN affiliate were trashing Richard Sherman. In particular, former Seahawk Dave Wyman was really down on Richard, saying, I don't care if he stays or he goes. Wyman was really down on Martin. You see, to me, that would be Jim, because Jim Moore was the guy that Richard Sherman threatened his job. So
you would think he was the guy that would, maybe he wouldn't be very indifferent. Maybe he'd be like, I'd like him to go.
Yeah, that's probably true. Wyman was also really down on Marshawn in the days when he refused to talk with the media. And as another example, Seattle Times writer Matt Calkins wrote an article at the end of our season this year saying how, quote unquote, unlikable the Seahawks are.
Right.
I remember that article. All this is a bunch of catfish. Clearly, these guys don't remember what it was like when people called our team the Sea Squawks and when the idea of Super Bowl appearance was laughable. The days when Wyman played for the Seahawks.
Oh, man. Shots fired.
Perhaps we should trade our local commentators to Cleveland so they can have fun covering a quote-unquote more likable football team like the Browns. In either case, I hope you can give the Seattle sports media a big do better. And on the flip side, I really appreciate all your excellent work and the fact that you are fans that help us appreciate the magic of our team rather than tear the team and its players down. And for that reason, Adam Emmert and Brandon Schultz are better at life than Skip Bayless. Go Hawks.
Hey, thanks, man. Considering the last show, basically ripped the team for, their free agent signing.
Yeah.
That was nice of him to say, but overall, we enjoy this team. And the idea that somebody is indifferent about Richard Sherman being on or off the team, like, what are you talking about? Why? He's a top 3 player at his position.
Yeah. It makes no sense. No sense to trade Richard Sherman. How could you
be indifferent about that? So he kills Sherman about, that he talks too much, and then he's also ripping Marshawn Lynch because he didn't talk enough. Like, where's your consistency, bro?
And two of the greatest guys in Seattle sports history for radio content. If you don't have those guys, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Who on the team who's gonna give you content to cover?
Right. So, I mean, sorry that they have big personalities, but that's why you have Pete Carroll.
Right.
That's his job. That's what he does, and he's good at it. So, whatever. Yeah, I'm with you, man. I'm with you. Like, the Seattle media in this last year, I think it's fairly safe to say they've turned on the team a little bit.
I would say that's fair to say, especially with, Matt Calkin's on the Seattle Times. He's always crushing the Seahawks. And
it's cool to be critical.
Yeah.
Like, but does it balance? Is it fair? Does it make sense? And that's something I think we both try to provide on
does
here.
Does it make sense, I think, is the biggest one.
Right.
And some of these makes no sense.
And some of it makes no sense.
All right. Well, we got to do better from Tim and his dislike for the Seattle media. What do you say we get on to our do-betters?
Okay. What you got?
My do-better this week. We haven't talked about rule changes, and that's been in the news a lot this last week.
So what are these rule changes, Brandon? What caught your ire?
Well, it wasn't the rule changes that caught my ire. It was one of the rule changes that was missing from the proposals. The owners getting together next week, and there's a number of proposals on the table to help make the game better. But I don't see any rule changes that would allow the Seahawks to make the throwback uniforms a possibility. The idea that a team can't have two different colored helmets is a stupid rule. There's multiple different colored helmets all around the league. So the color of the helmets is not going to increase or decrease safety in any manner whatsoever. It's just a paint of color sprayed on the outside of the helmet. You can have your normal colored Seahawks helmets. You can have your throwback colored Seahawks helmets. To me, the idea that you can't have these throwback helmets, and that's throwing off the whole idea of bringing back these Seahawks throwback uniforms, it just drives me nuts. And the NFL, they need to fix it for not having it among the rule changes. Do better.
You're right, man. Do better, because it doesn't make a lot of sense. This feels like one of those rules that are in place for rule's sake.
Yeah.
Right? Which, that just ruffles me harder than anything. So, look, here's the thing. So the Packers throwback uni, right? That's their alternate uni, correct?
Right.
Now, they have a yellow helmet.
Yeah.
But does it have the Green Bay logo on it?
No.
No, it does not. So that is a different helmet. That's somehow okay. But you can't have a silver and a blue one? Like, that makes no sense to me.
Yeah.
Like, I don't get it. If you're really concerned about the helmet looking different, then when it doesn't have a decal, it looks different.
Right.
So I don't understand the difference.
I don't understand the entire concern. Like, why don't you just do it?
Yeah, I've yet to hear one. And the idea, too, like, what's the NFL about, Brandon?
Making money.
Keep getting them checks. Like, so what if you have more styles of uniform and more helmets and all that, ask the Oregon Ducks if by going into this, crazy idea that they change your uniforms, faster than I change underwear, has made them a hell of a lot more money. I'm sure they'll let you know that they've made bank on that. Now, do I want it to be like that? No. But one alternate uniform or two alternate uniforms, like the Wolf Grays and then, a throwback, one alternate uniform and a throwback. Yeah. That is not too much.
You've distracted me. My big takeaway here now is you need to change your underwear more often.
Well, look, I mean, it's daily. I just we're talking, Phil Knight is basically changing the Oregon uniform every other hour.
All right. Nice save.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice.
Well,
save.
Okay. So by change every day, I say, I mean, like you turn it inside out for the second wear.
Right.
Right. Because you've changed sides that touch your skin.
You've changed. Yes.
Yeah. So that's a change.
Right. Oh, man. Speaking of do better, man.
That's doing well. I'm doing good. All right. So my do better this week is for the sports media in general this week. Basically, this is over the Tom Brady jersey fiasco. So
this is big news, Adam. We're solving crimes this week.
So on my phone, exactly. So on my phone, I get news updates, for like legitimate news. And then I also get, sports updates and things like that. And, you get the little banner that flashes up on your phone. So the same day, the FBI director, James Comey, is testifying in front of Congress regarding possible Obama wiretaps or possible Trump-Russian connections or, this is big news. Whatever side you're on, however you feel about it, one way or the other.
That's big news.
That's big news regarding the FBI. I got one alert from Yahoo News about FBI Director James Comey testifying, and I got 10 from different news organizations about how the FBI had found Tom Brady's Super Bowl jersey, not just one, but two, by some dude that snuck into the Patriot locker room, who's a foreign national. And then later in the day, I get 5 more about videotape that comes out of dude sneaking in the locker room. And this, some investigative journalist expose. This isn't freaking Watergate. It's Tom Brady's stupid jersey. Nobody really cares that much. This isn't a big deal. But good Lord, my phone blew up all day. One alert about national interest and national security, and 15 to 20 about Tom Brady's stupid jersey and Von Miller's helmet. National media, sports writers, you are not this important. This isn't that big of news. You need to understand that you're not Woodward and Bernstein here. All right. You work for Bleacher Report. Okay. Do better.
I have 2 takeaways from this. See, now, one, It shows you how unimportant that this whole thing was when we're just now 2 years later finding out that Tom Brady's jersey was also missing after Super Bowl 49. We're just now finding that out. So that's not important. And the other takeaway is James Comey, in these same hearings, we found out that he's a Giants fan and he hates the Patriots. And to me, that's weird.
I don't know why you would think that's weird.
Well,
but
you're a Giants fan. You beat the Patriots twice in the Super Bowl. Why would you hate them? You clearly have dominated them when it matters most.
I don't know. Maybe it has nothing to do with that. Maybe he doesn't like Giselle. I don't know. Maybe he really dislikes Bill Belichick. But the idea too is that the FBI, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, took time to find Tom Brady's jersey. Are you serious?
They did it too.
Are you serious?
They got it back.
This is what my taxpayer dollars were going for? If it's really that important, you don't think Giselle and Tom Brady could have sprung for a PI? How many national resources
they
went
should
in
have to chip
getting
in.
Tom Patriot his stupid jersey back?
They should have to the fact that taxpayer dollars went to getting his jersey back. That I'm in agreement with you. He needs to reimburse the federal government.
There's a lot to do better there.
Yeah. Well, speaking of losers, my better at life is for the NFL commissioner.
That didn't make any sense whatsoever. This is better at life, remember? Better at life than Skip Bayless. This is somebody that did good.
Yes. And well, I think he has done well. The NFL commissioner, you know what? He made me realize this last week, Adam. NFL commissioner Roger Goodell, he's just like the rest of us.
He's a regular guy.
Raj is just like every one of us.
One leg at a time into the pants. Yep.
Just like us. And he wrote an email to NFL fans this past week saying, "We know how annoying it is when you come back from a commercial break, kick off, and then cut to a commercial again. I hate that too. Our goal is to eliminate it." Raj and I, we hate the same thing. Mm-hmm. We have something in common.
Yes.
And to me, I just wonder why this hasn't changed already. But the fact that it's on the radar, that they're going to make this happen. The interesting thing is that he came out with this in an email before the owners' meetings even happened, which makes it seem like he's putting the pressure on the owners out in advance to show how much the fans want this. And I think this really is something that the fans want. If there's one thing positive that came out of the election last year, is that it dropped the ratings of the NFL low enough to where they're considering making changes like this so that we can enjoy the game more. And and so for that, I'm going to give Roger Goodell my better at life this week.
I like it. I do. Now, the two things though with that, why is it just his goal? His goal is to eliminate this. Isn't he like the Napoleon of the NFL?
He needs the owners to sign up to buy off on this.
Right.
They might lose money from this.
No, there's no possible way they'll lose money. And that was my second point. And here's why. Here's why they won't lose money on this. So basically, it's TV revenue, correct? And does the NFL raise TV revenue by selling advertisement, or do they sell the right to broadcast their games to a network? And then the network sells advertising, right?
Yeah.
To recoup costs, and then they pay. All right. So that's how it goes down. The NFL doesn't sell the advertisements. It makes no difference to them. There's one advertisement a game, but still got paid by the networks. They still be getting the money. Like, it doesn't matter to them how many commercials that there are. Like, it doesn't hurt their bottom line. And when you're the NFL and you go to, say, Fox, and you say it's time to redo the contract, we're going to cut this one area where you can show commercials out of the deal, and you're still going to pay us $2.5 billion or whatever it is the TV deal is, because it's astronomical. What's Fox Sports going to say? Are they really going to look at you and say no? What, are they going to put on curling instead? Like, they're going to say, yeah, okay. So you end up getting the same money. Like, so it hurts the networks. It doesn't hurt you.
Well, this isn't the only thing that they're trying to cut. One of the things that it sounds like they're trying to cut is all the BS TV show promotions that the networks sprinkle in throughout the broadcast. You know, Goodell saying,
does that bother you?
I don't think it bothers me as much, but the idea that the NFL wants to get rid of it, I'm okay with. Like, I look back at I listen to some of the old broadcasts and watch some of the older games. Mm-hmm. It's weird how much different it feels.
Yes, that is true. That's true. I guess that's one of the things that doesn't really bother me. Doesn't change the flow of the game,
right?
Like, in the sense that it still all happens at the same pace, because it's not like they pause the game for a promotion of Mike and Molly.
Yeah.
You know,
no, they get it in there pretty quick.
In. Yeah, so that doesn't bother me. If it went away, sure, I wouldn't be sad about it.
Well, and then the other thing that's interesting that they're talking about speeding up the play is the change to centralizing the replay reviews. And he says, instead of a fixed sideline monitor, we will bring a tablet to the referees who can review the play in consultation with our officiating headquarters in New York, which has the final decision. This should improve consistency and accuracy of decisions and help speed up the process. I want them to do this, but what I want to see is for the sideline delivery and retrievers to be like the kids in tennis,
like tennis, like the ball boys,
they huddle like by the dude with the sticks,
like crouched,
with the tablet, and they have to bolt out as fast as they can to hand off the tablet, and then one comes over from the opposite sideline when the ref's done to retrieve it. Like, it has to be, they have to sprint like that.
I like it. I like what you're thinking with that. Bill Belichick would not approve of this. He's not a fan of the tablets. But, that's a good way to do it. I still don't understand for the life of me how by the time the guy even got to the hood, right? And let's say you take the time of him walking to the hood out of the equation, right? So by the time he was handed the tablet, all of us at home, all of us in New York, or all of the officials in New York and all that, we've seen the replay 6 times already.
Yeah. We already know what he's going to say.
How is it not an option for them just to buzz down to the ref and be like, by the time we got it figured out, before we even go to commercial break, like, just buzz down and be like, that's the ruling.
Well, that's the curious part to this to me, like, because
take the tablet out altogether.
If the referee isn't going to have the final decision, if the final decision is going to be in New York anyway, then why even show the referee? Like,
is that what they're saying, or are they saying they're going to work together on the replay?
It says that New York has the final decision.
Yeah, then that's dumb. Just make it so that they can just call him up.
Right. Yeah. Because now you're wasting time, even involving getting his input.
Yeah.
I think the referee should have the final decision.
I don't care who does, as long as it happens as fast as I can figure it out.
I'm with you.
All right, man. Well, I'm going to have my Better at Life here. I'm going to make it short and sweet because I got to take my daughter to bassoon lessons. So my Better at Life this week is for a real journalist, a man who takes reporting and he actually does it with integrity and facts, logic, and reason. A man who has upped the Seahawks blog from the instant he stepped into the position as Seahawks beat writer for ESPN, and that is Shyle Kapadia. This guy, he's a real journalist and a good dude. I actually really like this guy from the bit that I've heard him speak. And we've all heard the rumors over the last few weeks about them trading Richard Sherman. All started by, who the hell is it? Lombardi on his little podcast, to get his clicks and all that. Ridiculous. So to rebut that, Shawkapedia comes out with an article stating trading Richard Sherman would make 0 sense for the Seahawks because it's the truth. And so he breaks it down, with, again, facts, logic, and reason instead of, say, like rumors, little tidbits like Sherman is an elite player. Sherman is not easily replaceable. The salary cap situation going into next year, not as dire as everybody says. Actual things, that sure, he might be a challenging personality, but Pete Carroll's good at those sort of things. He should be able to manage that. And that's his job. Earn your paycheck. Just little things like that, facts, logic, and reason to, balance out the fact that, it'd be stupid to trade one of the best players in the league. Just dumb. So for coming out and like being a real journalist and stating actual facts instead of, well, I heard from somebody else who's an unnamed source whose grandma's dog licked the catfish of a GM's son that they're going to trade Richard Sherman. Shawkapedia, you are better at life than Skip Bayless.
One of these days, he'll earn enough Better at Life nominations for you to start pronouncing his name correctly, but that's something we can work on.
That's right.
I think it's Shiel Kapadia.
Well, whatever, man. I don't know. I'm bad. You're right. All right. I crushed you earlier on pronunciation. You got me there.
Yeah.
I always go back and forth in my head.
it's okay.
Okay.
I'm just saying, if Shiel is tuning in, he has my word that I'm going to work on getting you to pronounce his name correctly.
Okay.
Just like you tried to get me, just like you tried to get me to pronounce Tavares Jackson's name correctly.
And Spotrak.
Right. See, you help me, I help you. It's a teamwork thing.
Exactly. That's what we do here at the Seahawks podcast. All right. Shiel Kapadia. Is that right?
Well done, sir.
Okay. Shiel Kapadia.
I think you.
So Shiel like seal and Kapadia like Shmapadia. I'm like, this is going to be a struggle for me forever, man.
It's okay.
I like him. Like, I don't know what else to say. But good article. Better at Life, Skip Bayless. And these are the things that you should be reading.
It's articles like that that deserve all the clicks.
Right. Don't fall for the clickbait of 247 Sports.
Which,
John Davidson learned his lesson. He's got it figured out now. Over there in England.
247 Sports had an off day this week. Their headline writer must have been napping, because I saw a headline. It said, Seahawks sign safety Bradley McDougall.
And it changes the entire defensive back.
No, that was it. Seahawks sign safety Bradley McDougall.
McDougall and Paul Allen has sold the team, in the fabric of the Legion of Boom changed forever.
You would think. But whoever wrote that part was taking a nap. It was just a straightforward headline. It blew me away.
Wow. You should have.
Well, Adam, with that,
there's only one thing left to say.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.